Eden Park, the one ground in World Rugby that changes the temperature of a test before a ball is kicked. The Rugby Championship is deadlocked. 4 teams, all 2 wins and 2 losses. The Wallabies sense their best chance since 2003 to bring the Bledisloe home. The All Blacks are banged up, short on leaders and confidence, and are coming off a massive hiding. Is this fortress or a funeral? We're about to find out. This isn't a normal Bledisloe. Everyone's on 2 wins and 2 losses, and a single bonus point could tilt the table. For Australia, this is a rare double shot. Crack the Bledisloe and crack the Eden Park curse on the same night. New Zealand haven't lost here since 1994. Australia haven't won here since 1986. Psychologically, the All Blacks were belted last week, and their captain is out. Eden Park has saved New Zealand before, but the venue doesn't fix scrums, lineouts, or decision-making. So the question is simple. Are the All Blacks still a fortress team, or are the Wallabies catching them at exactly the right moment? The 2 teams have been announced today. And what do these selections tell us about how the coaches want to play? For Australia, up front, it's James Slipper hitting his 150th test, the first ever Wallaby to do so. Massive, massive congratulations to James Slipper and his family. Alongside him will be Billy Pollard and Taniela Tupou. In the second row, Nick Frost. He partners with Lukan Salakai-Loto. The back row is Tom Hooper, Fraser McReight, and captain Harry Wilson. Tate McDermott starts at 9, with James O'Connor at 10. Midfield is Lenny Kitau and Joseph Akuso-Swali'i. Out wide, you've got Corey Toole and Harry Potter, with Max Jorgensen at fullback. The bench brings Paenga Mosa, Angus Bell, Alan Alalatua, Jeremy Williams, Carlo Tizzano, Ryan Lonergan, I think is making his debut, Ted Edmed, and Filippo Daugunu. What does that mean? Well, Slipper's milestone gives calm leadership on the loose head. With Tupou starting and Bell and Alalatua to finish, Australia have 80 minutes of real scrummaging power. Frost's height and Lukan Salakai-Loto's physicality and mobility give lineout options and maul to strike threats. Hooper, McReight, and Wilson balance height, jackal work, and carrying. McDermott brings tempo. O'Connor brings control and variety on the boot. Ikitau keeps defenders square. Swali'i adds collisions and aerial pressure. Toole offers raw pace. Potter works tirelessly. And Jorgensen gives a second playmaker at the back. Though with Kellaway out, New Zealand are likely to test the high ball. For New Zealand, the front row is Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, and Tyrell Lomax. At lock, it's Fabian Holland with Tupou Va'i. The loose forwards are Simon Parker, Captain Adi Savea, and Wallace Satiti. Cam Roigard's back. He's at 9 with Borden Barrett at 10. The back 3 reshuffle brings Caleb Clark on the left, Leroy Carter on the right, and Will Jordan at 15. Midfield is Jordie Barrett and Billy Proctor. On the bench, we've got Samisoni Taukeaho, Tamaiti Williams, Fletcher Newell, Patrick Tuipolotu, Peter Lakai, Cortez Ratima, Quinn Tupaia, and Damien McKenzie. And the meaning with that selection? Well, Savea captains with Scott Barrett out, which pushes Satiti into a pure carrying role, and that loads more breakdown work onto Adi. Holland and Va'i are athletic, but lighter on maul nastiness, so Tuipolotu becomes the steal late in the game. Roigard's return is huge. His running threat pulls guards in and opens lanes for switches and swings. Clark's recall and Jordan at 15 signal more width and exits to the edge before kicking. The bench screams impact. You got Tamaiti and Newell, the Crusaders duo, to stabilize the scrum. Tuipolotu for the ball, Lakai for turnover moments, and McKenzie to lift late game tempo. Let's look at some of the data in terms of how the two teams have been playing throughout the Rugby Championship. What's been their scoring DNA? Well, Australia have 17 tries and 114 points with very few penalty goals. They want fives and sevens. New Zealand have 13 tries and 98 points, and they lean more on territory and management. What about gain line? Well, Australia averaged 3.67 meters per carry with 32 clean breaks and 112 defenders beaten. New Zealand are at 2.59 meters per carry, 15 clean breaks, that's less than half of the Wallabies' clean breaks, and 92 defenders beaten. And they've both got similar number of offloads. But in short, Australia are playing faster, more accurate, and they're cutting deeper with ball in hand. Let's look at set piece. For scrums, Australia are at 100% on their own feed. New Zealand around 90%. At lineouts, Australia 85%, New Zealand to 82%. So the Wallabies have been the steadier platform. The All Blacks have struggled at times. What about kicking and tempo? Well, kicks in play per 100 rucks, New Zealand sit high at about 40 per 100 rucks. Australia lower at about 28 kicks per 100 rucks. So the All Blacks already played the field position game. The question is, are those kicks contestable and are the exits clean? What about defense and discipline? Well, tackle accuracy, Australia roughly 87.5%, New Zealand around 82% or 81.8% to be exact. That's the lowest in the competition so far. Penalties conceded, Australia 34, which is the lowest in the competition, New Zealand 39. So cleaner defense has been an Australian edge. Let's look at something quite interesting, the clock bias. And when have the points come for both teams? And I think this is the quirk that could potentially decide the game. New Zealand scored 39 points in the first 20 minutes. They scored 29 points in the second 20 minutes. Then after halftime, for some reason, they just have scored 3 points in the entire Rugby Championship. And then in the last 20 minutes, which is minutes 60 to 80, they have scored 27 points. What about Australia? In the first 20 minutes, they have scored 14 points. Then in the second 20, 15. And then in the third quarter, that's straight after halftime, they've scored 28. And then in the last quarter, they've scored a monster 57 points in that final 20. So New Zealand start hot, and then they collapse after halftime, and then they rally. Australia starts slow, and they finish like a freight train. If New Zealand aren't up by 2 scores at the break, Australia's finishers turn this into a coin flip. If Australia are within 6 to 8 on the hour, history says they will run you down. Let's speculate how Australia will try to win this game. First, set piece pressure. Taniela Tupou to challenge early, Bell and Ala Latour to amplify it late. I expect them to take every scrummable advantage and to compete hard on New Zealand's throw through Frost and Lukan Salakai-Lotto on lineouts. If the All Blacks overfold to stop the maul, Australia will show maul, then peel and play into midfield at Barrett and Proctor's shoulders. Second, exits and backfield manipulation. Often one carry inside the 22 before the kick, just enough to pull the backfield up and open the 50-22 option. They'll try and test Jordan and Clark on the turn and look for space behind Carter's edge. O'Connor has the full menu. Short contestables, long touch finders, and cross kicks for Swali'i or Toole. Third, breakdown suffocation. Fraser McReight sets the standard. The goal is simple. Win the collision or win the delay. Slow Roygaard's ball, force Borden to kick ugly, and pinch 1 or 2 steals in the New Zealand 40 to swing momentum. Then strike shapes. I expect Ikitau to square Proctor. Then Swali'i runs tight on his inside and Toole gets released on the overs line outside Clark. Tate loves a blind to open switch. He'll dart short, drag the guards across, then flip it back for Wilson or Hooper into a tired pillar. Add aerial raids at Jordan or Proctor's channel with Potter chasing. On the scoreboard, Australia don't need to chase sevens early. They just need to stay attached to 50 minutes. Take the easy threes when they are clean, but their identity so far has been tries over penalties. How do we think New Zealand will try to win this game? Well, everything is gated by set piece. They'll need to follow two strict rules. The first is no free scrum penalties and a simplified line-out menu for the first 20. Bankers to Va'i in the middle, one tail option to Holland, and a dummy maul call that baits the Wallaby fold before playing back inside. With Cam Roigard back, the map changes. His threat condenses the guards. That opens the pass to a forward pod, then the swing to the far edge. If the first carry wins the gain line, his quick ball brings skin plays for Jordan and Carter. There's also the switch play trap. Go around the corner once to drag bodies, then switch back against the grain with a hard downline from a front rower or a lock. Play immediately off that quick ball, sometimes even a second switch with Borden or Jordan injecting. That pattern has bothered Australia all season. On exits, New Zealand are better when they play to the tram lines first, then kick from the edge through Jordan or Borden, mixing chips and long grubbers to force Australia into long retreats. When accuracy dips, run pressure cycles, contestable kicks, 50-22 hunting, and disciplined squeeze on Aussie exits to earn easy entries. And the third quarter, that's the danger zone. By minute 50, they'll need to get a fresh prop on, add Tuipolotu's steal, and bring Lakai's turnover energy. Keep Roigard through 60, then let Mackenzie lift the tempo to close. What are some of the head-to-head micro battles that we can expect? In scrum time, we've got De Groot and Lomax against Slipper and Tupou. Then Bell and Alalatua arrive. If New Zealand cough up 2 scrum penalties in the first quarter, that's the alarm. The counter is preemptive subs and quicker ball off 8. At lineouts, Holland and Va'i goes up against Frost and Lukan Salakai Lotto. Australia will compete hard at the front and the tail. New Zealand can answer by shortening, speeding the throw, and using that dummy maul to play back infield. Breakdowns are going to be massive. Savea with Satiti and later Lakai, they're going up against McWright, Hooper, and Wilson. Watch New Zealand's ruck speed. Under 3 seconds is their green zone. Anything slower hands Australia the rhythm. What about aerials? Swali'i and Jorgensen versus Jordan and Clark. Expect New Zealand to test Australia's back 3 early. Australia will probe Clark's edge and drop kicks in behind Proctor. On the midfield, Jordie Barrett and Billy Proctor against Ikitau and Swali'i. Proctor's 2 big reads are Ikitau's square and tip, and O'Connor's inside ball back to Swali'i. Jordie's left boot is key to pin Australia in the corners. The halfbacks, Borden and Roigard versus O'Connor and McDermott. If Borden sits deep, Australia's line speed grows. When he plays flat off quick ball, New Zealand can fire those switch sequences that really hurt. Finishers for New Zealand, Ratima to hopefully up the tempo alongside Mackenzie. And Mackenzie also for width and pace. Tuipolotu for the maul and Lakai for that one big turnover. For Australia, Edmed for tertiary, Daugunu for broken field punch, and the Bell Alalatua tandem to flip the scrum picture. Another speculation here I'm throwing out is the potential game script. In the first 20 minutes, I see New Zealand jumping out. Kick pressure, an early maul fake into a switch try, and a Geordie penalty or a body penalty. Australia settled through scrum parity and smart exits. To halftime, Australia tightened discipline and find 2 red zone looks off line out. New Zealand keep the scoreboard ticking rather than chasing highlights. In the third quarter, this is New Zealand's danger window. If they don't win the first 2 sets after the break, McDermott and the Aussie back row will raise the tempo. That's the cue for early bench moves. And then the finish. Australia's surge comes. The difference could be a Mackenzie to Jordan counterpunch or a set play chip to Carter. My pick, All Blacks by 3-7 at Eden Park. Why? The venue, the emotion, and an early lead just enough to hold. But if Australia are within 1 score on 60 minutes, the upset is very, very real. What do I reckon the whiteboards should say on the coaches' changing rooms? Joe Schmidt's board will read, take scrum points early, kick to the corner late, compete at 2 and at the tail in the line out. Exit with 1 carry, then kick to edges or contestables. Put McWright on Roygaard's rhythm. Get Hooper and Wilson winning the first carry. Target Clark's edge and the space behind Carter. In attack, switch back against the fold. Use Swali'i on inside balls and unleash Toole's pace. Fewer than 10 penalties. If you're within 6 on 60 minutes, empty the bench and chase the scrum. What about Razor's whiteboard? He's going to be telling his players, bank a 2-score lead in the first 15. Don't flip a coin after halftime. Keep line-out calls simple. Sub early if the scrums creak. With Roygaard, condense the guards, then switch. Exit to width and kick from the edge. No slow ball box kicks. When accuracy dips, go to contestables and 50-22 hunts for 5 minutes. By 50, add a prop, Tuipolotu and Lakai, unless you're dominating. Test Jorgensen and Potter in the air and finish with Mackenzie. Play to space and tempo. What are some of the key stats to watch? Scrum penalty differential, especially between 50 and 65 minutes. New Zealand's first 6 line-out throws. You also want to keep an eye out on kicks regained. Over 30% for New Zealand is good from a New Zealand perspective, of course. Over 20% contestable wins for Australia is danger for New Zealand. Breakdown steals. You want to be having a close eye on McWright versus Savea or Lakai. At the points by quarter, New Zealand under 10 in the first half boosts Australia's late edge. Australia more than 10 down at the break will probably make the climb steep, just like what happened in the second Argentina game. Well, history says Eden Park rescues New Zealand, but the data says Australia close hard and New Zealand sag after halftime. The selections say both coaches also are seeing it. Australia have stacked their finishers, New Zealand have stacked their fixes. If the All Blacks find set-piece sanity and let Roygaard pull the strings that switch the Wallaby defence back on itself, they lock the Bledisloe. If Australia stay attached and lean into that fourth quarter identity, the curse is in play. Either way, it won't be quiet. This game is going to be the fastest of all the games we've watched so far. The tempo is going to be incredible, and I can't wait. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so, and we will speak to you straight after the game.